Session 0. Epilogue. Departure from Lastgreen. It had to be at least midnight when Tom could reach Blue. After what he did to veteran Wayne, he knew he needed to be extra careful. 10 dozen coins. Wherever you are and whoever you are, that was a good amount. After talking with Pouring Paul, he glided over the streets like a shadow and completely vanished when he got to the wilderness. From there on, it was only minutes till he reached Blue.
Blue, babe, how have you been?
All good. Not much. How is it going with the bass?
Perfect, baby. I think I'm getting very close to understanding it, and it handles like a dream.
Of course it does. It was me who duckin' made it. You duckin' owe me, and I'm duckin' onto you.
Well, about that,
What?
we're gonna stay together for a couple of days. Here, I need to wait for something.
What's it? Oh, you ducked someone you shouldn't have, haven't you?
Yes and no. Yes, I did do that. No, I didn't do that the way you think.
What happened?
I hit a traitor, someone who lives here, very, very hard.
Why?
You know, I just felt like it, but you'd agree with me.
No, I don't. I don't have a habit of agreeing with dipshits or shitheads like you. Giggles.
Yeah, just don't wander off. Stay with me around the camp for now.
Okay. But you still gotta take me somewhere nice. And if we skip this town, in the next one we'll do double. Anyway, tell me what you duckin' did.
There's this traitor, you know. I picked up the rumor in the town that he needed help on the route, because of bandits and stuff. Then I went there to check it out.
That seems normal. Normal you, I mean.
But there is also another word in town that the traders are taking advantage of the farmers here. Then I found the guy, and he gave me a low price. I got carried away a little and asked for much higher, and convinced him to agree.
Still normal. Then?
Then I did the thing. When I returned, he didn't want to pay me.
Who doesn't pay you? That's my duckin' fun coin.
Smiles. Oh, wait a minute there, babe. Don't go that far. I get paid, as I always do.
Duckin' good.
Then we had an argument, and he crossed the line, so I took him hostage and got double the coin. Then I flew away, of course.
Nice. Where's the duckin' coin? What can it get us? Nice food, maybe? Or new necklaces?
You remember the nice fishing boats we saw at the port, right?
Yeah?
I could buy one with a hard bargain, but not a cuter one, of course.
I'm getting so many vile necklaces and beads and food and fabric and strings.
But I gave it all away.
Why? To whom?
Everyone, and
Interesting. Go on.
I only took the coin to give it away in the town. You see, those traders are not very fair to the farmers here. I've talked to a couple of them, and also heard others, of course. You remember Paul, right? I introduced you when we first came here, the innkeeper. I took a little and gave him the rest. It's like the farmers get to stick it to the traders for once. It felt right.
Yes, it should feel duckin' nice. Like I always say, duckin' around is optional. Finding out is not. You did good, but you still duckin' owe me. You still gotta get me my nice thingies eventually.
I will.
Duckin' good.
So we need to stay together for a while, lay low. Paul will send word, then we run, or it's all good.
Okay, I'll start packing the cart with stuff we don't use too much, just in case. With me, I mean you. And you also need to harvest my flowers and rub my feet. You're here and you're a duckface, and I'm, your queen, so it only makes sense.
Smiles. Not if I get your nose first.
With a straight face. Oh no, not my nose. If you come close, I'll duck and chop your duck in Inferna and eat it in Gehenna.
The scary thing is, you can do that, can't you?
Takes stance and keeps a straight face. Yep, can and will. Try me, you mother ducker. 100 and duck and 10% on top.
Walks closer slowly and steals her nose quickly. You'll never get the finest bastard of Newburgh. Ha 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 ha!
Runs after him and shouts, "Gimme my duckin' nose, you duckin' duck, suckin' duck face."
The next morning, Tom and Blue woke up to a male voice trying to recite an ancient protective chant. The guy was standing in front of the scarecrow with a basket in his arm near the tent and paying his respects to it. He finished his chant and started walking to the tent cautiously. Munchie sent a root from underground into the tent and poked Blue while she was laying. Crunchy was acting like it was shaking from the wind, but it was moving its roots to a defensive position in case something would happen. When the guy came closer, Tom could see that it was Kenny, caring Kenny. Tom greeted him, and they sat together in front of the tent. He assured him that the scarecrow was, of course, fake, just to keep people away. Kenny gave Tom the basket. There was fresh bread and good cheese in the basket. Kenny told Tom that he figured out what he did and came to thank him. He also assured him that other people also think the same way. He didn't stay long and went back to town the way he came. It was good news delivered by a good heart. Tom thought Pouring Paul would send word any time. As expected, Pouring Paul stopped by later in the afternoon. He told Tom that all was good. With the heated atmosphere, almost everyone sided with Tom on the situation. To be exact, most of them didn't believe, or didn't want to believe, that Tom did such things as Veteran Wayne told, and of course the coin also helped. While it was a temporary relief and not a change of how things work, it was still much welcome and appreciated. The latest word was that Guardmaster McAllister slapped Veteran Wayne across his face in the middle of the marketplace. Tom thought he should give it another day, and then they could visit the town peacefully again. I want to make a note here, since at this early point in the saga of the bastard and the bitch, Tom gives advice to the reader. I'm quoting his words. "I strongly advise you, my precious audience, to use mnemonics and, better yet, rhyming mnemonics backed with impressions and stories to learn things quickly when you're in a hurry. Even for non-magic users, it's certainly a powerful tool. And you don't have to come up with new ones for each thing. If it's fitting and it'll make you remember the thing, just use it. It should be, therefore, that he always mentions others with a rhyming nickname coupled with an impression or experience. Now, back to the tale. In the next morning, Veteran Wayne and his wife, Panic Pam, emptied their home into a trade cart. At noon, his other carts were filled with trade goods, and they left town, probably never to come back. The town was below Veteran Wayne's means anyway, and it surely caused inconveniences for him to live there too. With a push in the right direction, they just left on an impulse. And it was probably no loss to the town either. Hiring Harper also did his trade quickly and left town a couple days after Veteran Wayne. Bandit numbers thinned down by his coin, and Tom's help gave him a good chance to be successful in his grand plan. One day, Mysterious Misty showed up at the tent. She told Tom that she found a different way to make her business work, and that she started practicing on the flute he gave her. Moreover, she said that she even got in town and bought a nicer one for herself. She tried to ask questions about the way of the bard and magic to both Tom and Blue, but Tom shut her down each time. He just told her that to become a true bard, one needed to answer the calling of destiny, magic, and music. He told her that she needed to experience things to achieve true bardhood, and one can't simply become a true bard on his front lawn. All of the noteworthy bards in history have these views in common. They seem not to take in complete beginners and teach them anything, and they still expect people to become bards. Maybe they all know something that we simply don't know. Mysterious Misty's new tricks seemed to be working quite nicely, since Builder Billy always kept visiting her, and her services seemed to help him both physically and mentally. Builder Billy's wife also seemed happier about the changes on him. She said he was becoming stronger, calmer, more loving, and less drunk of a husband. Things didn't go as good for struggling Steve as Builder Billy. He kept strong and saved his money. He didn't spend it all in the inn, as he said. Then came the time for him to visit Mysterious Misty. Tom's information is unclear on struggling Steve about his visit, but he says he's seen him the next morning with a couple of bruises on his head, and he said to him that the visit was not worth the coin. The sparkle in his eyes, while he was thinking about Mysterious Misty, Tom states, argued otherwise. On a more cheerful note, Cheerful Cherry, Tom went to the inn with the ladies. More than once. Due to the fact that it was harvest season and coin was there to be had, the ladies had their nights at the inn maybe more times than they want to admit, and Tom took Hopeful Howard with him too, at least a couple times. Hopeful Howard showed a quite decent development in his time with Tom. And Tom found out why Cheerful Cherry, although very appreciative, didn't have quite the interest in him like many other ladies of the town. She had a very pure and innocent interest in Hopeful Howard. but he had extraordinary success in failing on each and every chance he had with her. The development in his skills, also in his character too, took care of the problem. On a fateful night towards the end of Tom and Blue's stay in the town, he managed to leave the inn with her and accompanied the Ginger Queen on her walk home. That would also mean no failure in the books for Tom, since he always was a man of principle. Hard to believe from the outside, he states sincerely that he always paid extra attention to who he has his fun with. Fun, he says, should be harmless. If it would harm anyone or anything, it falls out of the classification and becomes something else. And also, the tone of the saga clearly shows that he already found his queen, and after that point, seemingly, every other maiden was for shits and giggles, a habit of relaxation and fun that came with the way of the bard and never really changed. You do the song, you do the lady, and fighting is unpleasant and mostly optional. And luckily for him, his queen didn't mind. More luckily for him, the saga states, she often joined in. Now it's time to mention the two angels of the town, Rough Riley and Rocking Roxanne. Both their allure and beauty came very close to the unnaturally perfect physique of an average witch. Rough Riley was the warrior queen, and Rocking Roxanne was the queen of dancers. Tom says they both played very hard to get, but couldn't resist the fine bastard in the end. For Rough Riley, it was the supposed swordsmanship. The word in town was Tom was hunting both bandits and skeletons and thinning both ranks at least in a reasonable radius around the town, and he was doing it for a measly amount of coin. That could only mean, Rough Riley thought, that he was righteous and pure in heart. Combined with his magical presence and perfectly gentlemanly demeanor, the warrior queen surrendered to him eventually. He says it was quite an experience also. At one point he states that the act resembled more to wrestling with a wild animal. For Rocking Roxanne, it was the musicianship, so she had way less chance than Rough Riley to triumph over the fine bastard and leave a mark on his perfect score. Tom states that it was an enlightening effort to impress Rocking Roxanne with his music, which opened his horizon to new musical ideas and pushed him to get better. The will and the itch to get better he never ditched. He describes his time with Roxanne before impressing her as a delicate musical improvisation, which demanded constant inspiration and could fall apart with the slightest mistake. The time with the dancer queen afterwards he describes as borderline unnatural and unachievable by beings without the touch of magic. In the time of Tom and Blue's stay, after the departure of veteran Wayne and Panic Pam, Tom got to keep his word to Blue and paid her in full. They had quite a lovely time in the town before they hit the road again, and to leave on the highest note, Tom invited everyone to the inn the night before. Guards were the most thankful ones about the night, and also very much satisfied with the promise of Maiden being kept. Unlike hopeful Howard, these men forged on the battlefield were much less maidenless to begin with, and all in good fun, they got their share. And Tom states that he was pretty sure that the town was about to gain some newly built homes and a couple more Toms. There was only one heartbroken person in the crowd, and it was for her own good, Shimmering Sheila, the daughter of Pouring Paul. Heartbreak is something that one must learn to deal with, but the sincerity and innocence within made Tom sad. He gave the advice and did the right thing, but maybe she needed to be, and probably will be, taught by experience sadly. In the early morning of Tom and Blue's departure, Munchie poked Blue again. This time it was Minty Minnie, the town's lovely gardening doctor, who, of course, could never be a witch. She told Tom and Blue that she figured out what Tom did for her, and she was grateful for the effort. In exchange for considering her safety, she wanted to reciprocate in the same manner. Tom and Blue nearly always travelled with a small cart, just a little bigger than a farmer's handcart in the older times. They would sell it when it's inconvenient and buy a similar one when the journey allowed. They didn't have much with them on their travels, but the comfort of being able to keep the tent set on the cart and not carrying things on themselves, they liked to have it. It was not how Tom always travelled, but the change that came with the Queen was quite a welcome one. Choosing a smaller cart specifically allowed them the option to pull it themselves or delegate the job to a work animal if they pleased. Another thing that it offered is the freedom to take paths which bigger carts would prohibit. The last one was to be quite handy after Minty Minnie's gift. She already figured out that the duo wouldn't travel on the conventional trade route alongside the traders they upset. She gave them a drawing of a path that she takes when she goes out north to gather herbs and mushrooms. Through the mountains and beautiful nature, the path led to another town north of Lastgreen. During their travel, they could also do some gathering, and that would mean that it was a double gift for Blue, as she called it. After a quick lesson from Minty Minnie to Blue about the local nature and what to look out for, Minty Minnie offered her thanks again and gracefully departed. Then came the time to hit the road again. It was quite normal for Tom, given his way of life, but Blue always had a weird mixture of feelings. She felt sad to say goodbye to her newly made friends, but also was filled with wonder about meeting new ones. She was just a 3-digit-old little girl who just wanted to be accepted by other kids as herself, and to play as a part of the group, which never happened before Tom. Sure, there were some general rules with other people, like no magic unless she absolutely needed to, and less swearing, but she managed to follow them somewhat. At times of departure or her alone time, it was always Tom's promise to try to come back to her. Eventually, that comforted her. She knew in her heart that she had at least one friend after nearly a century of loneliness, and she didn't need to bind him like she did to a few others before. This one seemed to love everything about her the way she was. She appreciated and cherished that eternally, and even, in her own words, kind of like the duck and duck face back a little bit.
It wasn't always good, sometimes not even fair. We showed will and skill, and we handled with flair. Each time the bastard fell, the kind bitch was there. Of the troubles of the bitch, the fine bastard took care. We traveled far and wide, to the ends of nowhere, and always pulled through, even the darkest nightmare. This tale ends here, and we'll travel elsewhere, to write another one, while having this to share.